Hi, this is Melanie Lukosevic. I'm the executive editor of Capital Region Independent Media. We publish the Greenville Pioneer, the Ravenna News Herald, and a series of community guidebooks. We're here with State Senator Neil Breslin, who will now cover the 46th district after the state Senate lines were redrawn by the state. Mr. Breslin, thank you for joining us. Can you please go through how the district has changed with the redrawing of the lines?
The district has changed. It adds to my district, obviously Ravenna and Queens, the four hill towns, the town of Guilderland, New Scotland, and then it moves west to Schenectady, and essentially I represent all of Schenectady County except the city of Schenectady, which is the biggest part of it, and I represent all of Montgomery County, which includes Amsterdam and where the old factory was on the Thruway. So it's a tremendously enlarged district. I'm over a little over 50%. I've never represented before, so it entails, which it should, a lot of work on my part to meet my new constituents, and a lot more gas in my car because it's a lot longer. As before, I had really Albany County places and Rensselaer County places.
Okay, well, can you tell us a little bit about your background? I know you've been in office for some time, and you did at one point cover Ravenna and Queens Hollow, that area. Please tell us about that.
That was great. A lot of the people from Ravenna I went to high school with, and I knew, and it was familiar to me, and I felt very comfortable. My background is that I swore I would never be an elected official or of any political jobs. And I'm from a middle-class family in Albany that turned out three lawyers, an engineer, a school teacher, and a nurse. So a traditional family. And I eventually went into fast forward, partnership with my two brothers, Michael and Tom. And Tom ultimately became a Supreme Court judge and has since retired. My brother Michael, and that reduced our law firm size. And then my brother Michael was asked to run for county executive. And being a West Point graduate and kind of meticulous and first in his class in law school, he did not like practicing law, and he called himself a recovering lawyer. And moving on, a year after he was elected, I was asked to run, and I labored over it and finally convinced myself if I could make a difference in people's lives, it would be worthwhile. It was the first public job I had ever had or ever sought, and that took place 25 years ago.
So you've been in office as a state senator now for 25 years?
That's correct.
Okay. All over that time span, what is the accomplishment that you've had in office that you're most proud of?
I think a lot of areas in insurance that are subtle and people aren't interested in. I take one from last year that a lot of people are searching for health plans that would cover a particular problem they have. And so they go to a health plan that had that medicine that they wanted. And if they switched the plan during the period that they could, and went into that new plan, the next day the plan could say, no, we're getting rid of that particular drug. And they were left without a position, the patient. That's unfair. You shouldn't do that. So this little bill says you can't do that. You have to wait at least a year before you make any changes. When I first got on the insurance committee, I noticed that if a health plan wanted to raise the price of the plan, the drugs, they could just unilaterally file a sheet of paper and raise them. That to me was absolutely repugnant, bizarre, and many other things. So I introduced legislation to make it not just file and use, but prior approval, that you go through a process. And if it's to protect the patient, the person in the plan, and to make sure you protect the insurance company, that they don't go out of business. And that became law. And there's a lot of there's a lot of places I know that my leadership in the Senate sometimes will ask me, tell me about this bill, and it's complex, and I'll get a few sentences into it and they'll say, is it a good bill, Neil? And want to move on. And a lot of people in my conference are more interested in changing the murder law or changing this or that, because high volume press and you see it every day, and your family knows about it and want to talk about it at the dinner table. I've been told by my family, can you do me a favor when we go out to dinner or something? Don't talk about insurance, because it isn't warm and fuzzy. And I think it's critically important. If you look at what we spend, health insurance, car insurance, all the different insurances put together are critically important to the stability of a family and stability of an individual, to make sure he's protected. And really, insurance is just, because I had no background in it, I can simplify it. It's just spreading the risk out. That we want if we have a tragedy, we want to be able to spread it among those people who didn't have the tragedy. And it works, but you have to be very careful.
Okay, just to let you know, our publisher and vice president, Warren Deuce Jr., has joined us. Welcome, Warren. And I don't remember if I mentioned, but Mark Vinciguerra is also with us. He is our president and company owner.
Okay.
Okay, what are some of the top issues that you would say are facing the 46th district, and how would you address them?
I always think that the issues of schools and being up to date and providing an equality between and among the residents, regardless of where they live in the district. I've been a strong proponent of making sure we still haven't achieved that pre-K and kindergarten are mandatory. And I think that leaves kids behind. And it isn't a question of wealth of the district. It's a question of just exercising it. And I know several years ago, the Waterville and Cohoes school districts came to me, together, but they were two separate districts, and they had passed legislation, or they had passed a rule in their district to have full-day kindergartens, but it wasn't a law. It was their decision to do it, and they were finding that only 1/3 of the kids eligible were going. Yet there was a classroom, a teacher. So I immediately introduced legislation to mandate they had to go to kindergarten, and which I had when I was young, and got through it successfully. And so those little tiny areas of the law that you can change and make a significant difference are critically important. And don't pass laws because you want your picture in the paper tomorrow morning. Look at those little nuanced situations that make your district a better place. And I think I've done that over the years. I've been the head of insurance in the Democratic Senate for a number of years. I'm the vice president pro tem of the Senate, which is one of the strong leadership positions. I'm also the head of the Legislative Ethics Commission, which tries to regulate what senators can do, what they should do, and sometimes what they don't do. That's a little bit of a snippet of what I've done. I think I've gained enormous respect of the members of the Senate, and I hope I continue to do so.
Okay. Inflation is high, gas prices are high. What are some of the things that you think this district can do to spur economic growth and, help put money in people's pockets?
But I think, first of all, the party in power always is given, or at least has to deal with the fact that they're in power when the inflation took place. And inflation right now is worldwide, caused by a number of things, including the pandemic, including the war in the Ukraine, the inability to move products successfully. And so one of the steps the president made, because a lot of the steps are not local, they're national in nature, is to make more oil available by opening up the reserves a little, by trying to negotiate with other countries to say, you know, it's a crisis now, and there's some countries that need oil more than others, and to try to negotiate to reduce the price of oil. It's to make sure we have, if it's a recession, we ought to have incentivize, and generally spending is a problem, incentivize people to get more money. And we've come up with programs. We see all those orange markers on highways now, and sidewalks being done in the Ravine area as well as the rest of the district. That generates income to the individuals, because this is a peculiar recession. The unemployment rate has remained at an all-time low. So there's not enough money in people's pockets, though, to cover the increase in the cost of products. So we've tried to do that as well. It's beginning. I think there's some good signs now coming out that the inflation rate has come down the last couple of months. Hopefully it'll come down more, but this is an international problem. And in my district, I try to look at local problems to see if there's some places I can. I have some disposable government money that I can move around, and hopefully it focuses on those people who are most needy, and people who, without some kind of a lift up, would be in deep trouble.
Okay, let's talk for a moment about broadband. There are still areas of 46th district that don't have broadband, and it's become a necessity. How do you think we can proceed to expand it to all areas of the district?
Money, money, money. And also, if you have the will to win, you will win. And if you have the will to say broadband will be corrected in the hill towns, in the Ravine area, and throughout the district, generally excluding the cities, but we have to say, no, that's our responsibility. Broadband puts people at an economic disadvantage, an educational disadvantage for their children, and we have to place that money out there and seek out. And in your area, we've done a pretty good job, but not a great job. And there's more people that need it, and more people should have it. And we can start counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and to make sure that we achieve the goal of total broadband.
Okay. Reproductive rights and abortion. Obviously, it's an issue on the national stage.
Yep.
New York has taken steps to protect reproductive rights. Is there anything else that you think this state can or should do? And can you give us your position on the issue?
Sure. First position, that I have been favorably disposed to support Roe v. Wade. I remember a long time ago getting up on the floor of the Senate and said, I was not a woman when I got here. I was not a clergyman, and I wasn't a doctor. And those three and others should join in to protect the rights of women. And that is not my decision.
Okay. Do you have any final message that you would like to give to the voters?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most, you see in the polling what's important in people's lives. I think their views on democracy. I think there are a lot of people who kind of just went to work every day, had their children go to school, and were comfortable. It's a unique quality we had among Americans, that we never worried about our country and the way our country was moving, that we were the pillar on the hill. I think a lot of people are feeling very nervous, and we have to do everything we can to begin to move back to where we were, where we're not abusive to others in government. And that I'm in the process, this is the first time I set it up, of trying to put together a Republican and Democratic group. And I can think of, there's always 4 or 5 who are special friends of mine who in the other party, and they have 4 specials in my party that are 4 special people, is to meet once a week and go over things that we saw happen in the prior week that we viewed as not being acceptable for a legislature. And they're generally things that were never acceptable years ago, and we've gradually moved in a different direction. But incrementally, we have to move. I'm not an evil person because I'm in one party, and someone else in the other party isn't evil for the same reasons. So if we begin to move that way, and my best friend, and I shouldn't say this publicly, my best friend in the Senate is someone that philosophically I don't agree with anything that he stands for. And if he was here, he would say that he doesn't agree with anything that I stand for. But we respect each other. We talk about issues. I don't think I've ever used a crossword with him. I'd accuse him of having some crosswords with me. But it's incrementally starting to move, hopefully in that direction. But and that's just a small vignette. But nationally, I mean, I think we're in crisis mode, and we're I think electing people who have are not representative of what I would like my legislator to be. And being a legislator is to me not a duty. It's a privilege. And each day, I have a daughter who spent 6 years in Africa, trying in Sierra Leone and Liberia, and she used to use a phrase that they use there: small, small. And it meant if you could incrementally do something small each day that positively affects someone's life, you can move on to the next day with a smile. And I think I try to follow that as a legislator and as a person. And if we can accomplish that as a unit, we'll be a much better place.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Senator Breslin. November 8th will be election day, so everyone of all political leanings, please go out and vote, make your voice heard. And thank you for joining us. Thank you, Senator Breslin.
Thank you very much.